Captain stood on the bridge of the steady hand, watching the stars stretch into lines as the ship entered faster than light travel. He sipped his coffee and glanced at the mission clock. 3 days to the target system, 3 days back. Simple exploration mission. "Coffee's terrible today," he said to nobody in particular. The communications officer looked up from her station. "You say that every day, Captain." "Because it's terrible every day." Sat down in his chair and pulled up the mission reports. Paperwork, always paperwork. Even in space, even on humanity's first real journey to another star, there was still paperwork. The steady hand was not a military vessel. It was a research ship built by 3 different countries and 2 private companies. The crew of 43 people came from 12 nations. They had launched from Earth Station 1 with a simple mission: go to the nearest star system, look around, and come back. Nothing fancy. The navigator was playing a game on his tablet. Beside him, engineer was reading a book. The bridge was quiet except for the soft beeping of instruments. This was day 3 of a mission that would take 6 days total. Everyone was already bored. "Captain," said, not looking up from his game, "we've got something weird on sensors." "Weird how?" Finished signing a supply requisition form. "Big, really big, like surrounding a whole star big." That got attention. He stood up and walked to station. The display showed a massive structure orbiting a star about 2 light years off their course. It looked like a swarm of objects, millions of them, all arranged in a pattern. "Is that what I think it is?" asked. "A swarm, probably," said. "Someone built solar collectors around an entire star." "So we're not alone in the universe?" "Apparently not." Thought about this for a moment. First contact with alien life. This was supposed to be a huge moment in human history. He should probably feel something significant. Instead, he just felt curious. "Mark it on the charts," he said. "Send a report back to Earth. I'll draft something official." "Should we investigate?" asked. "Not our mission. We're supposed to survey the Alpha system, not chase every shiny thing we find." Walked back to his chair. "Besides, if someone built that, they're way ahead of us technologically. Better to let the diplomats handle it." He had barely sat down when alarms started blaring. "3 ships just appeared on sensors," said, her voice tight. "They came out of nowhere there. They're blocking our path." Looked at the display. 3 vessels, each about twice the size of the steady hand, had materialized directly in front of them. They looked organic somehow, with smooth curves and a dark purple color that seemed to shift in the light. "Slow to sublight," ordered. "Try to hail them." The steady hand dropped out of FTL, and the 3 alien ships matched their speed perfectly. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then's console lit up. "They're sending something. It's translating itself. The signal is learning our language from our own transmissions." A voice came through the speakers. It sounded like clicking mixed with a strange humming, but underneath could hear words forming. "Unregistered vessel. You have violated Imperial space. Identify your species and purpose." Picked up his headset. "This is captain of the human ship Steady Hand. We're on an exploration mission from Earth. We didn't know this was anyone's space. We mean no harm." There was a pause. The clicking intensified. "Human? No record of this species in Imperial database. You possess faster-than-light travel but are not registered with the Empire. This is highly irregular. You will follow us to processing station Gamma 7 immediately." Looked at his crew, looked nervous, had finally put down his game and was staring at the alien ships, was frowning, probably calculating whether they could outrun the aliens. They couldn't. "All right," said into the headset. "We'll follow you. Please send coordinates." "Compliance is noted. Transmitting coordinates now. Do not deviate from the prescribed course. Any aggressive action will result in immediate destruction." The alien ships turned and began moving. The steady hand followed. "Should we tell them we don't have weapons?" asked quietly. Let's not volunteer that information, said. He opened a channel to the rest of the ship. Attention all crew, we've made contact with alien life. We're being escorted to what seems to be a government facility. Stay calm, follow protocols, and someone please make better coffee. The journey to the processing station took 6 hours. During that time, wrote his report to Earth, knowing it would take years for the message to arrive at light speed. Organized all their first contact data. Tried to scan the alien ships but got nothing useful. The aliens' technology was too advanced. When they finally arrived at Processing Station Gamma 7, the crew of the Steady Hand got their first real look at the Galactic Empire. The station was enormous, easily 100 times the size of Earth's biggest space station. Ships of dozens of different designs docked and undocked in a constant flow. Thousands of lights blinked across its surface. It's like a city, whispered, a city in space. They were guided to a docking bay. As the Steady Hand settled into its assigned spot, saw figures waiting for them. They looked like giant insects, standing upright on 4 legs with 2 arms. Their heads had multiple eyes and long antennae. Captain said, "What do we do?" Stood up and straightened his uniform. "We go meet them. You're with me. Everyone else, stay on the ship unless I say otherwise. And someone really needs to fix the coffee machine while we're gone." The airlock opened and stepped out to meet the aliens. The lead alien approached, its antennae twitching. When it spoke, a device on its chest translated the words into English. "I am administrator of the species. You are the humans." "That's right," said. "I'm captain, this is officer, we're pleased to meet you." His antennae moved in what might have been confusion. "You are remarkably calm for a species making first contact with the Galactic Empire." Shrugged, "You seem friendly enough. Should we be worried?" The Empire encompasses 47 species across 10,000 star systems. We have existed for over 10,000 years. Our power is absolute. Most new species are overwhelmed. "That's very impressive," said politely. "So what happens now?" Led them through the station, explaining the process. Humans would need to apply for provisional species status. They would be evaluated, tested, and educated about proper civilization. There were forms to fill out, requirements to meet, and protocols to follow. "How long does this usually take?" asked. Most species spend years preparing their application. The process itself can take decades. "I see," accepted a data tablet from. "Is this the application form?" "Yes, but surely you will need to consult with your government, gather supporting documents, prepare your case." "No, this looks straightforward enough." Sat down at a nearby bench and started filling out the form. Name of species, human. Earth. Level of technology, FTL capable. Government type, mixed. He worked through the questions methodically, finishing in about 20 minutes. He handed the tablet back to. The alien's antennae were completely still, which was learning meant shock. You just filled it out, right now, without consultation." "I have authority to make field decisions," said. "Is there a problem?" His antennae started moving again very fast. "No species has ever. This is highly irregular. I need to consult with my superiors." As rushed away, turned to. "Did we just break some kind of record?" "Maybe," said. "Want to find the cafeteria while we wait? I could really use some decent coffee." 3 weeks after Captain filled out the application form, Earth's official delegation arrived at Processing Station Gamma 7. The Empire had expected a small, careful group of frightened diplomats. Instead, a massive transport ship docked, and 200 humans poured out. Ambassador led the diplomatic team, but she was accompanied by scientists, trade representatives, tourists, and even a graduate student named who had won her seat in a lottery. Immediately started recording everything with her camera, narrating for her viewers back on Earth. "And this is the main corridor of an actual alien space station," said to her camera. "The ceilings are really high. I guess some species are taller than us. Oh look, that alien has 6 legs. Administrator watched the chaos with growing horror. Humans were everywhere, talking loudly, taking pictures, asking questions. Some had already found the station's shopping district and were buying souvenirs. Ambassador said, trying to maintain composure, "We have prepared educational sessions to help your people understand the complexity of the Galactic Empire. We have assigned each of you a personal mentor from various member species. We have arranged." "That's very kind," said, Shaking's hand firmly. The alien wasn't sure what the gesture meant. "But I think we'll be fine. We're fast learners. Now I'd like to discuss trade agreements. I noticed your station imports food from 3 different planets. We can offer agricultural products at much better prices." "Trade, but you haven't even been evaluated yet. The process takes." "I understand there's a process. We'll follow it. But we might as well talk business while we wait, right?" Pulled out a tablet. "I have some proposals here. Should we find a conference room?" Found himself being led to a meeting room by the human ambassador, who was already discussing crop yields and shipping routes. This was not how first contact was supposed to work. In another part of the station, scientists had found the Imperial Research Center and was deep in conversation with an astrophysicist named. They were arguing about dark matter. "Your calculations assume a uniform distribution," said, pointing at equations. "But if you account for gravitational lensing near massive bodies—" "Impossible," clicked. "The energy requirements would be—" "Not if you use a rotating field. Look, let me show you." Grabbed a writing pad and started working through the mathematics. Watched, antennae twitching faster and faster. This could work, but this would change our entire understanding of FTL mechanics." "Well, that's how we built our drive," said cheerfully. "We didn't know the proper way, so we just tried different things until something worked." Meanwhile, had attracted a crowd of young aliens from various species. They were fascinated by her camera and her cheerful attitude. She was showing them pictures of Earth. "This is a cat," she said, displaying a photo of her pet. "We keep them in our homes. They're soft and make us happy." A small reptilian alien looked confused. "You keep a predator in your dwelling, for companionship?" "Sure, I mean they're small predators. They mostly just sleep and knock things off tables." "Your world must be very safe if you can afford to keep predators as pets." Laughed. "Oh no, Earth is super dangerous. We have bears, sharks, venomous snakes, poisonous plants, lots of things that can kill you, but that's normal for us." The young aliens looked at each other with what might have been alarm. The Empire's evaluation of humans began the next day. Imperial psychologists, biologists, and cultural experts administered a battery of tests designed to assess a species' readiness to join galactic civilization. The results confused everyone. "Their risk tolerance is off the scale," the chief psychologist reported to the High Council. "We showed them scenarios that would terrify most species, and they rated them as moderately concerning or slightly dangerous." "Perhaps they don't understand the scenarios," a council member suggested. "No, they understand perfectly. They just don't seem to fear death the same way other species do." One human, when shown a simulation of a collapsing building, said it looked exciting and asked if there was a real-life version they could try. The physical evaluations were equally strange. Human reflexes were extremely fast. Their endurance was extraordinary. They could survive in environmental conditions that would kill most other species, and they healed from injuries at a remarkable rate. "They brought a creature with them," the reported. "They call it a dog. It's a pack-hunting predator that they've domesticated. They feed it, play with it, and let it sleep in their quarters. They seem to think this is normal." "What kind of world produces a species that keeps predators as companions?" the council member asked. "We're analyzing their data now," the said. "Preliminary results are concerning." Back on the station, Humans were settling in, had somehow negotiated a temporary trade agreement despite not being an official member species yet, was collaborating with imperial scientists on 3 different research projects. This video channel had attracted millions of alien viewers who were fascinated by human culture. Captain and the crew of the Steady Hand were still there, waiting for permission to continue their original mission. They spent their time exploring the station and meeting different species. One evening, Administrator invited the senior humans to a formal dinner. It was meant to be an educational experience, showing them the grandeur and might of the Empire. The dining hall overlooked a viewport showing the Imperial home fleet, thousands of warships arranged in perfect formation. "These ships have brought peace to the galaxy," said proudly. "They represent power beyond measure. Civilizations that resisted the Empire were persuaded." Looked at the warships with professional interest. "Nice ships. What kind of reactors do they use?" Santini stopped moving. "You're not intimidated." "Should I be? They're just ships. Very nice ships, but still just ships." Took a sip of his drink. "We should compare notes on reactor efficiency. Our FTL drives might use different principles." "Your world has only just achieved FTL travel. The Empire has perfected it over. What could you possibly teach us?" Spoke up. "Well, our approach is different because we didn't know the established methods. Sometimes not knowing the right way leads to interesting solutions." Added, "We're not trying to be difficult, Administrator. We're just practical. Yes, your empire is impressive. Yes, you have more experience. But we're here now and we'd like to work together. What's wrong with that?" Was silent for a long moment. Finally, he said, "Most species, when they learn of the Empire, react with awe, fear, or desperation to prove themselves worthy. You react as though you've simply discovered new neighbors." "Isn't that what we are?" asked. "Neighbors." That night filed a special report to the High Council. He titled it, "The Human Question." In the report he wrote, "The humans are not primitive. They are not ignorant. They possess technology, intelligence, and capability, but they lack the proper sense of scale. They do not grasp that they should be overwhelmed by the Empire's age and power. When shown our might, they nod and ask about technical specifications. When offered mentorship, they thank us and then teach us new things. When given difficult tests, they treat them as puzzles to solve rather than barriers to overcome." He concluded, "I do not know if the humans are brave, foolish, or simply built differently than any species we have encountered. But I am certain of one thing: they will not follow the path we expect. The question is not whether they will change to fit the Empire. The question is whether the Empire is prepared for what they will bring." The High Council read his report with growing interest. The human question, indeed. Back in her quarters was streaming to her followers. "So tomorrow they're taking us to see the cultural center. I'm really excited. Oh, and I tried alien food today. Some of it was really good. Some of it was weird. But that's the fun part, right? Anyway, I'll show you everything tomorrow. Thanks for watching." She ended the stream, not knowing that she had more alien viewers than human ones, and that her simple, cheerful attitude was already changing how the galaxy saw humanity. Outside the station, stars shined in the endless dark. The Empire had stood for 10,000 years, stable and unchanging, but something new had entered its space. Something that didn't understand it was supposed to be small and quiet and grateful. Something that treated the extraordinary like it was just another Tuesday. The Imperial science vessel arrived at Earth 2 months after first contact. Lead had volunteered for this mission, curious about the world that had produced the strange humans. He expected a pleasant garden world, similar to most species. That would explain why humans seemed so naive about danger. The reality was very different. Class 12 Death World, his computer announced as they entered orbit. Extreme caution advised. Environmental hazards include volatile weather systems, aggressive fauna, toxic flora, high tectonic activity, and dangerous microbial life. Checked the sensors 3 times, certain there was an error. Class 12 was the highest danger rating. These were worlds the Empire used as prison colonies for their worst criminals. No intelligent life was supposed to evolve on such planets. "Are you certain this is the correct planet?" he asked his crew. "Confirmed, this is Earth of humans." Looked at the planet below. It was beautiful, covered in blue oceans and green land. It didn't look like a death world, but the data didn't lie. A message came through from Earth's surface. A human face appeared on the screen, smiling. "Hello, welcome to Earth. I'm your guide for the visit. We're excited to show you around." It was the same from the steady hand. Had met him briefly at the processing station. He seemed friendly enough. "Thank you," said carefully. "We will need to wear full environmental suits for protection." "Protection from what?" Looked confused. "Your planet is rated as extremely hazardous. The atmosphere, the organisms, the environmental conditions." "Oh, you mean like the weather and stuff? Yeah, it can be rough sometimes, but it's not that bad. You'll be fine." Decided not to argue. He and his crew of 6 aliens from different species suited up in full protective gear and took a shuttle down to the surface. They landed at a designated visitor area in a place called Yellowstone National Park. Was waiting for them, wearing simple clothes and no protection at all. The temperature was near freezing. The atmospheric pressure was higher than most species preferred. The oxygen content was dangerously high. "Welcome to Earth," said cheerfully. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" "It's 2 degrees Celsius," said through his suit speaker. "How are you not freezing?" This is nice weather. Wait until summer, it gets really warm." Started walking along a path. "Come on, I'll show you around. We've got lots of interesting things to see." The first interesting thing was a hot spring. Sensors screamed warnings about the boiling water and toxic gases. "People come here to look at the pretty colors," explained. "The minerals create these amazing patterns. See that orange ring? That's thermophilic bacteria. They live in boiling water." "And humans come here voluntarily?" asked. "It's a popular tourist spot. We get millions of visitors every year." As they walked, noted the plant life. Many species had thorns, toxins, or other defenses. The air was full of pollen that would trigger allergic reactions in most species. Small insects buzzed around them, some of which could apparently inject venom. "Watch out for the bees," said casually. "They're usually friendly, but if you swat at them, they might sting." "Your planet has weaponized insects." "Well, they're just defending themselves. They're actually really important for our ecosystem. They pollinate flowers." Then saw something large moving in the trees. Something very large. His suit scanner identified it as a predator, approximately 300 kilograms, equipped with claws and powerful jaws. "Is that what I think it is?" His voice was tight. "Oh, that's just a bear, probably looking for food. Don't worry, they usually avoid people." "Usually?" "Yeah, sometimes they attack, but it's pretty rare. Just don't get between a mother and her cubs and you should be fine." Waved at the bear. It looked at them, seemed uninterested, and wandered away. His crew huddled closer together. One of them, a small avian species, was shaking. "This world is a nightmare. How do humans survive here?" "We're adapted to it," said. "This is home. Want to see the geysers? They shoot boiling water hundreds of feet into the air. It's really cool." The tour continued for 3 hours. Documented everything. The volcanic activity, the predators, the poisonous plants, the extreme weather patterns. At one point, it started raining and didn't even bother seeking shelter. "You're getting wet," pointed out. "Yeah, it's just water. I'll dry off." Turned his face up to the rain and smiled. "I love the smell of rain." That evening took them to a human settlement. The town had about 5,000 people. Noticed children playing outside, unprotected, running around and laughing. "Your offspring play in this environment?" "Of course, how else would they play?" They entered a building that called a restaurant. Inside, humans were eating and drinking, analyzed some of the food, and nearly had his suit shut down from shock. This substance contains capsaicin, a chemical irritant. Why are they consuming it? Oh, that's chili peppers. They make food spicy. People enjoy the burning sensation. They enjoy pain. Well, it's not exactly pain, it's more like exciting. Another dish contained ethanol. This is a toxin, said. It's beer, alcohol. Yeah, it's technically poisonous, but in small amounts it makes people feel relaxed and happy. Ordered something and took a drink. Want to try some food? We can get you something mild. We cannot remove our suits. The bacterial content of your air alone could kill most of us. Looked genuinely surprised. Really? Wow, I didn't know Earth was that different. We should probably set up better facilities for alien visitors then. Over the next few days, visited different parts of Earth. He saw deserts where the temperature reached 50 degrees Celsius. He saw frozen tundras at minus 40 degrees. He saw oceans full of predators with rows of teeth. He saw storms that could level buildings. He saw volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. And everywhere, he saw humans living their normal lives, treating all of this as completely ordinary. He interviewed a human scientist named Sira. Doesn't it concern you that your planet is constantly trying to kill you? He asked. Sira laughed. I never thought of it that way. I mean, yes, nature can be dangerous, but it's also beautiful and fascinating. We've learned to live with it. We build strong houses for storms. We have medicine for diseases. We have warnings for earthquakes and volcanoes. It's just part of life. But don't you want to leave, to find a safer world? Why would we leave home? This is where we evolved. This is where we belong. Sira paused. Besides, where's the fun in safe? The challenges make us stronger, smarter, more creative. If everything was easy, we'd get bored. Realize something important then. Humans weren't naive about danger. They knew Earth was deadly. They just didn't care. Or rather, they had accepted danger as normal and built their entire civilization around surviving and thriving despite it. When returned to the Empire and filed his report, it caused panic among the High Council. The report spread quickly. Soon, every species in the Empire knew the truth. Humans came from a world so dangerous that it would be used as a maximum security prison, and they thought it was nice. The military implications were immediately clear. General of Earth's Defense Forces was invited to give a demonstration. He brought a squad of human soldiers to the Empire's military academy. The demonstration was simple, a combat simulation against the Empire's best training robots. The robots were set to a difficulty level suitable for advanced soldiers of most species. The humans finished the course in record time. They moved with speed and coordination that shocked the alien observers. When hit by training weapons, they barely slowed down. Their pain tolerance was incredible. Their situational awareness was perfect. They fought like predators because they were predators. Your reaction time is 40% faster than the galactic average, the training master noted. Your endurance is 3 times normal. Your capacity to process multiple threats simultaneously exceeds any species we've encountered. We evolved dodging things that wanted to eat us, explained. Fast reflexes meant survival. Humans who couldn't run for hours died in the persistence hunts. Our brains got good at tracking multiple dangers because our world had lots of them. And your comfort with violence. Every human receives basic combat training. It's part of our education. We've had wars for our entire history. We know how to fight. The alien military officers looked at each other with growing concern. The humans weren't just tough. They were weapons that could walk and talk and solve complex problems. News spread across the Empire. Humans were from a death world. They were persistence predators who had conquered their nightmare planet. They could survive almost anywhere. They healed fast, fought well, and didn't quit even when they should. And somehow, despite all of this, they were cheerful and friendly, and seemed genuinely interested in being friends with everyone. Ambassador fielded dozens of concerned messages from other species. Are humans dangerous? Was the most common question. Her response was always the same: only if you make us your enemy, otherwise we're pretty nice. But across the empire, people were starting to realize something troubling. Humans had entered galactic civilization like it was just another day, because for them, dealing with an ancient empire of alien species was actually less stressful than living on their own planet. The empire had welcomed what they thought were naive newcomers. Instead, they had invited apex predators who thought of themselves as friendly neighbors. The question now was, what would happen next? 6 months after first contact, humans were everywhere in the empire. They had been granted provisional species status, which was supposed to limit their activities to a few designated worlds. Instead, they had spread across dozens of systems. They opened restaurants serving Earth food. They started businesses. They joined research teams. They took jobs on trading ships. Some even signed up for the Empire's security forces. The Council had tried to slow this expansion, but humans simply ignored the restrictions and did what they wanted. When confronted, they apologized politely and continued anyway. Ambassador sat in a meeting with Council members, discussing the human problem. Your people are disrupting the established order, Council member N said. They ignore social hierarchies. They question traditions. They change things. Is that bad? Asked. It's concerning. The empire has functioned smoothly for thousands of years because everyone follows the rules. But are the rules good rules? Pulled up a data screen. We've improved energy efficiency in 12 systems. We've introduced new medical treatments. We've increased food production. We've made things better. You've made things different. That's not the same as better. But even as the Council complained, they couldn't deny the results. Humans were effective. A human engineer named Sira had revolutionized shield technology, something she'd done in her spare time while working on a completely different project. Her design was now being adopted across the empire. I just noticed the energy distribution was inefficient, Sira had explained when asked about her breakthrough. So I fixed it. It wasn't that hard. This attitude drove the Imperial scientists crazy. Things that had remained unsolved for centuries, humans fixed casually, as though they were minor inconveniences. The economic impact was even more dramatic. Human businesses operated differently. They moved fast, took risks, and adapted quickly. Traditional imperial corporations, with their careful planning and slow decision-making, couldn't compete. A human named Minu had started a simple shipping company. Within 3 months, he had captured 15% of the interstellar cargo market in his sector. When asked his secret, he shrugged and said, I just deliver things fast and don't charge too much. Basic business. The social disruption was perhaps the most visible. Humans made friends easily and didn't care about species differences. They ignored the traditional hostilities between certain races. A human teacher had opened a school that accepted students from all species. This was controversial because some species had ancient grudges against each other. Didn't care. They're children, she said when confronted. They can learn to get along, and they do. In my classroom, nobody cares who your ancestors fought wars with. They care about whether you'll share your snacks. Her school became incredibly popular. Parents from multiple species sent their children there because the results were undeniable. Students learned faster, thought more creatively, and developed better social skills. She teaches them to question everything, one concerned parent complained, to find their own solutions instead of following established methods. And that's bad because, had asked. The military situation was perhaps most concerning for the imperial leadership. Humans had started volunteering for dangerous missions. the kind that usually required conscription. They seemed to actively seek out risk. The navigator from the steady hand had become a tactical consultant. He specialized in what humans called asymmetric warfare. His strategies were unconventional and, to traditional military minds, completely insane. "You want us to do what?" General of the Imperial Fleet asked, looking at his proposal. "Use smaller ships in unpredictable patterns. Hit and run. Make the enemy chase you into terrain where they have disadvantages. Don't fight fair, fight smart." "This is dishonorable." "Is honor worth dying for?" Had no answer to that. The Empire's conservative factions grew increasingly alarmed. Something had to be done about the humans before they changed everything. A plan was formed in secret. They were a warrior species, proud and strong. They had joined the Empire 300 years ago after a brief war they'd lost. They still resented their defeat. When certain Imperial factions approached them with a proposal, they listened. "Test the humans," the conspirators said. "Attack one of their colony worlds. See if they're really as tough as they claim. If they break and flee, it proves they're weak. If they fight, you'll have worthy opponents. Either way, you win." They agreed. They chose a small human colony on a world called New Hope, home to about 5,000 humans and a mixed population of several other species who had partnered with humanity. It was a farming community, peaceful and undefended. The attack came without warning. 3 warships arrived in orbit and began bombardment. The colony's shields held for a while, then failed. They sent down ground forces, expecting quick surrender. They did not get it. Minyu, who had started the shipping company, was on New Hope visiting his brother. When the attack began, he didn't run. He organized the defense. "We've got farming equipment, construction vehicles, and a lot of angry people," he said at the emergency meeting. "Let's use what we have." The colonists turned their tools into weapons. Construction mechs became combat units. Farming drones became scouts. The greenhouses became defensive positions. When the soldiers landed, expecting terrified civilians, they found organized resistance. The battle was brutal. There were professional warriors with superior weapons, but the humans and their allies fought with creativity and determination that shocked the attackers. Minyu used irrigation systems to create mud that slowed the enemy's heavy armor. Colonists set up ambushes using their knowledge of the local terrain. When they tried to take the main settlement, they found themselves fighting in buildings rigged with traps. A distress call reached the nearest Imperial outpost. Admiral, now commanding a small fleet, received it and immediately mobilized. But he was 6 hours away. The colony had to hold until help arrived. They held. When ships finally arrived, they found the colony damaged but intact. The forces had retreated to their ships, having suffered heavy casualties. The human and allied defenders had lost people too, but they had won. Didn't bother with formal communications. He simply positioned his fleet between the ships and the colony and waited. Seeing they were now outnumbered. On the colony's surface, Minyu sat among the debris, drinking coffee someone had managed to brew during the battle. He was covered in dirt, exhausted but alive. The commander, a warrior named, sent an unexpected message. "We wish to meet the leader of the defense." Minyu went up to his flagship, where a video call was arranged. Appeared on screen, his 4 eyes studying Minyu carefully. "You fought well," Human said. "I expected easy victory over farmers. Instead, I found warriors." "We're not warriors," Minyu said. "We're just people protecting our homes." "You turned farming tools into weapons. You fought when you could have fled. You accepted casualties to achieve victory. This is what warriors do." "If you say so." Minyu took a sip of his coffee. "This was a good fight, but I'd prefer not to do it again. We've got crops to plant." Made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your species is strange. You fight like veterans but talk like civilians." Maybe those aren't as different as you think. The attack on New Hope had consequences. The Empire's Council launched an investigation and found evidence of the conspiracy. Those involved were punished. But more importantly, the incident revealed something crucial. Humans would fight, and they would fight effectively, even when outmatched. Other species took notice. The peaceful farmers who had become desperate defenders, the navigator who had redesigned military tactics, the engineer who had improved their shields, these weren't exceptions. This was what humans did. They adapted, they solved problems, they refused to quit. Ambassador addressed the council after the incident. We didn't come to your empire looking for war. We came looking for friends and partners, but if someone attacks us, we will defend ourselves. Every time, without hesitation. We hope you'll remember that. The message was clear. Humans were friendly, but they weren't weak. In the aftermath, something unexpected happened. The requested permission to establish an embassy on Earth. Himself wanted to visit the Death World and meet more of these strange warriors who didn't think of themselves as warriors. Across the Empire, opinions about humans shifted. They were no longer seen as naive newcomers. They were recognized as capable, dangerous, and determined. But they were still friendly, still helpful, still treating the ancient empire like it was just another place to live and work. The question was no longer whether humans would change the empire. They already had. The question was how much more they would change it, and whether the empire was ready for what came next. 1 year after first contact, the Galactic Empire faced something it had not encountered in thousands of years, an existential threat. The warning came from a remote monitoring station at the edge of Imperial space. Ancient sensors, placed there ago, had detected something moving through the void, something vast. The High Council convened in emergency session. The data was analyzed and reanalyzed. The conclusion was terrifying. The Devourers had returned. The Devourers were not a species. They were a fleet, a swarm of automated ships that consumed everything in their path. They had destroyed the civilization that existed before the Empire, 10,000 years ago. The Empire itself had been founded by the survivors of that catastrophe. Ancient records described them. Thousands of ships, self-replicating, impossible to negotiate with, unstoppable. The previous civilization had thrown everything they had at the Devourers and lost. Only by fleeing to a different region of space had any survivors escaped. Now they were back. The Council's response was immediate and traditional. Begin evacuation of the core worlds. Abandon the frontier systems. Consolidate forces around the most defensible positions. Survive, even if it meant losing half the empire. We cannot defeat them, Council member said. Our ancestors couldn't, and they were more advanced than we are. Our only option is to retreat and endure. How long until they reach Imperial space? Someone asked. 6 months, maybe less. The news spread across the empire. Panic followed. Species began preparing to flee. The great Galactic Empire, which had stood for 10,000 years, was preparing to run away. Then the humans heard about it. Admiral was in a strategy meeting when Ambassador burst in, tablet in hand. We need to talk about the Devourer situation. Ambassador, this is a military briefing. Have you decided to fight them? The room went silent. Finally, an Imperial Admiral spoke. Fight them? That's not possible. The best strategic minds in the Empire have analyzed the data. Retreat is our only option. Orr said, and hear me out here, we could fight them. You don't understand. The Devourers cannot be defeated. Everything can be defeated, said, standing up. Everything has weaknesses. We just need to find them. Over the next week, something remarkable happened. Humans throughout the Empire volunteered to help. Scientists like Ansira began analyzing the ancient data on the Devourers. Military tacticians started developing strategies. Engineers began designing new weapons. They're wasting their time, council members said, but they didn't try to stop the humans. What harm could it do? The human research team worked around the clock. They brought in General from Earth, along with a staff of military historians who specialized in asymmetric warfare. They consulted with and other warrior species who had joined the effort. After 3 weeks, they called a meeting with the High Council, presented their findings. The Devourers are machines, which means they follow programming. They're good at their purpose, consuming resources and replicating, but they're not creative. They can't adapt to truly unexpected situations. The previous civilization tried everything, In argued. What could you possibly do that they didn't? Maybe nothing, admitted. But we have to try because running away just delays the problem. They'll keep coming. Eventually, there's nowhere left to run. General stepped forward. We've developed a strategy. It's high risk and will cost lives, but it gives us a chance. What kind of strategy? An Imperial Admiral asked. The kind humans are good at. The kind where you use every dirty trick available except that people will die and commit completely to victory, displayed a tactical map. We don't try to fight the entire fleet. We target their manufacturing ships, the ones that build new Devourers, cut off their ability to replace losses. Those ships are protected by thousands of combat units, which is why we need volunteers willing to go on suicide missions. Looked around the room. Every human military unit has already volunteered. We've got plenty of people willing to die if it means stopping this threat. Added, we also have something the old civilization didn't, coordination between multiple species with different strengths. They are excellent at electronic warfare. They are perfect for boarding actions. Humans are good at not giving up. We use everyone's talents. The council was skeptical, but they were also desperate. With only 4 months until the Devourers arrived, they approved the human plan. Resources were allocated. The Empire's fleets began mobilizing not to evacuate but to fight. The preparation was intense. Human engineers worked with Imperial scientists to modify ships. Sira designed new weapons specifically for targeting the manufacturing vessels. Minu, the former shipping company owner, organized the largest logistics operation in Imperial history, moving supplies and personnel across dozens of systems. The graduate student who had started all this by her first alien encounter now ran the empire-wide communication network, keeping billions of beings informed and coordinated. Her cheerful optimism helped calm panic. We've faced tough situations before, she told her viewers. This is just another problem to solve. We'll figure it out. The Devourers arrived exactly when predicted. Their fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Imperial territory. 3,000 automated warships, with manufacturing vessels at their center, protected by layers of combat drones. The Imperial fleet, combined with human forces, numbered 1,500 ships. They were outnumbered 2 to 1. Remember the plan, Admiral broadcast to all ships. We're not trying to destroy every enemy ship. We're targeting the manufacturing units. Hit them hard, accept your losses, and don't give up, no matter what. The battle began. The Devourers fought exactly as predicted, efficiently, ruthlessly, without hesitation. They focused fire on the largest threats and coordinated perfectly. In the first hour, the Allied forces lost 200 ships. But the humans had predicted this. They had planned for massive casualties. Instead of retreating, they pushed harder. Tactics proved effective. Small human ships darted between larger Imperial vessels, drawing fire and creating confusion. The Devourers' perfect coordination became a weakness. They all responded to the same threats, creating patterns that could be exploited. Led a boarding force onto one of the manufacturing ships. The fighting inside was brutal, but they were built for close combat. They planted explosives in critical systems and escaped just before the ship exploded. 1 down, reported, 18 to go. Sira's weapons worked better than expected. The modified energy beams cut through the manufacturing ship's armor, but getting close enough to use them meant accepting heavy losses. Captain's flagship was hit by concentrated fire. The shields failed and the hull was breached in 3 places. Crew members died. The ship began listing. "Captain, we need to retreat," his second officer said. Looked at the tactical display. They were so close to another manufacturing ship, just a little closer. "Negative, all power to engines, we're going in." The Steady Hand, the same ship that had made humanity's first contact with the Empire, crashed into the manufacturing vessel. Both ships exploded. But before the explosion had transmitted his final report, "Second manufacturing ship destroyed. Keep going." The battle raged for 3 days. Ships on both sides died by the hundreds. But slowly, inexorably, the humans and their allies fought their way to each manufacturing vessel and destroyed it. Coordinated the scientific teams, analyzing devourer behavior in real time and finding new weaknesses. When the enemy adapted to one tactic, he developed another. Was on a diplomatic ship, not in combat, but she coordinated the political side, keeping the alliance together when species started to lose hope, reminding them why they fought. After 70 hours of continuous combat, the last manufacturing ship fell. The remaining devourers, unable to replace their losses, were systematically hunted down and destroyed. The battle was won. The cost was staggering. The Allied forces had lost 800 ships. Thousands of beings had died, including Admiral and hundreds of other humans. Entire fleets had been destroyed. But the Devourers were gone, completely. Their threat ended. In the aftermath, the Empire tried to process what had happened. They had won a battle everyone said was unwinnable. They had defeated an enemy that had destroyed civilizations. And they had done it because the humans refused to accept that losing was inevitable. 2 years after first contact, the Empire held a ceremony honoring those who had fallen in the battle. A memorial was built, with its name prominent among the dead. But more important than the memorial was what came after. The Empire changed. The rigid hierarchies relaxed. Innovation became valued over tradition. Different species worked together more closely, having learned the power of cooperation during the battle. Humans were granted full member status in the Empire, with all rights and privileges. But by that point, it was almost a formality. They were already everywhere, doing everything, treating the vast galactic empire like it was just another place to live and work. A new species was discovered, primitive, and just beginning to explore space. The council debated how to approach them, worried about overwhelming them with the empire's grandeur. Sira, now a council representative, was assigned to make first contact. She took the application form and flew out to meet them in a simple ship. The aliens were nervous, frightened by the idea of joining such a vast and ancient civilization. Sira smiled and handed them the paperwork. "Don't worry about it, just fill this out. We were new here not long ago too. The secret is to not get too worked up about it. Yeah, the Empire is big and old and impressive, but it's also just a bunch of people trying to get along and do their jobs." "But how did you adapt so quickly?" the alien asked. "We didn't really adapt. We just stayed ourselves. The Empire adapted to us a little bit, and we adapted to it a little bit. That's how it works when people meet. Everyone changes everyone else." "You're not afraid?" "Of what? Making new friends, meeting new people, learning new things," Sira laughed. "Those are the best parts of life. Come on, I'll buy you a coffee and explain how everything works. It's really not that complicated." As she led the confused but hopeful aliens away, still after all this time, captured the moment. Her viewers, now numbering in the billions across the empire, watched as humanity's casual confidence helped another species feel welcome. Because that was what humans did. They entered situations that should have been overwhelming and treated them like just another day. They faced impossible odds and decided to try anyway. They changed things simply by refusing to accept that things couldn't change. The Galactic Empire had stood for 10,000 years before humans arrived. It would stand for thousands more, probably, but it would never be quite the same. And somewhere, on some far distant world, in some small, a human and an alien sat together sharing coffee, discussing the ordinary things of life, treating the extraordinary fact of their meeting as though it was the most natural thing in the universe. Because for them it was.